Hey, howdy ho, everybody. This is Postmortem Nightshade, and I am so excited to say that it is finally time. This weekend, the big release is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. And before you can even ask, no, I did not even try to compete for the IMAX tickets. I just saw it at my regular Regal cinema. Not that I don't think it would have been cool to see it in IMAX, I just wasn't aware how hard and expensive it would be to get tickets. But I have been anxiously anticipating this movie and got the earliest showing I could. And, well, I would say Christopher Nolan has a pretty solid run as a director. I don't think many people would contest that. While he has had some misses, his films always feel at least like a movie, if that makes sense. They are a spectacle that are worth seeing on the biggest screen possible. His movies also have a great look and feel to them, and usually the weaker parts come from the script. So, although I have been highly anticipating this one, I was curious to see if this movie would fall on the side of good or bad writing. The cast for this film is also stacked to the gods, no pun intended, with Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Lupita Nyong'o, Charlize Theron, Elliot Page, and actually many more if you can believe it. And, well, this movie, honestly, for me after watching it, was a mixed bag. Running at 2 hours and 53 minutes, this was a long ass movie, dude. Although, having read the book in high school, I knew that if this was going to be a faithful adaptation, that the runtime would probably be quite extensive. And from what I can remember of the book, this does seem to have been a quite accurate and thorough recreation of the story. So, when going in, just be fully prepared that this is definitely a long one. Fits the definition of an epic to a T. With that being said, though, it was hard not to feel like the pacing dragged at a few points. The first quarter and last third of the movie were definitely the strongest, with the slowdowns happening the most in the middle of the film. Now, one thing I was curious to see how it came across was the dialogue. It wasn't something that super bothered me in the trailer, but I was really curious to see how it would translate in the full run of the film. And, well, I don't think I was the biggest fan. I think the problem with the dialogue was that there were modern lines that were spoken right after or before a very Shakespearean written line, so it just made the writing and dialogue style come off as incohesive. I did appreciate that they made the themes more apparent and digestible for an audience. However, the dialogue and theming with Queen Penelope was way too obtuse and over the top. It definitely borders on girl bossy at several points, which annoyed me because I think that Anne Hathaway was actually a really great casting and easily elevated the cringy material she was given to work with. And although she doesn't get much screen time, unfortunately, I really liked Lupita Nyong'o's Helen of Troy. She commanded your attention and stole the scene every time she was on screen. Loved her work. It was great. I also thought Matt Damon was acting his ass off in this movie, and not in an over-the-top or distracting way. This was definitely one of the best performances I've seen from him, and I thought he displayed actually really great range. The score of this movie by Ludwig Göransson, apologies if I mispronounced that, I thought was particularly great, and was really reminiscent of the great scores we used to get a lot more in films from decades previous. And although this world had gods, magic, monsters, and more, it still was in the very grounded and realistic style I've come to expect from Christopher Nolan at this point. Most of the effects work looked really great, especially on the monsters like the Cyclops and I don't know what it is, it's like a snake thing that comes out of a mountain. I think the big cats in the film, though, suffered a little in the CGI department, but the rest of everything else looked fantastic. The production design and costuming for me were all perfection, and I really liked how the Agamemnon armor look translated within the context of the film. There are also some horror elements in this, which I appreciated, and not just with it being a war movie, but also in relation to some of the magic and monsters elements. However, even with all that said, this to me is still falling in the category of an R- rated film. I think with some slight tweaking, they could have easily gotten a PG-13 rating. This is something I kind of have struggled to understand is that Christopher Nolan's last two movies have been rated R, but both of them could have easily been edited down in my opinion. And I feel like if you can make The Dark Knight and Heath Ledger's Joker fit into a PG-13 rating, then Oppenheimer and The Odyssey could definitely have fit in a PG-13 rating. But let me know in the comments why you think this change has been made to rated R for the last couple movies. But overall, besides that, I thought this was a very immersive spectacle that was a good adaptation of the book, and easily well worth seeing on the biggest screen possible. So, on my scale, this film sits in the hey howdy alrighty category. But Let me know your thoughts on the Odyssey in the comments below. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in, and if you'd like to follow along on my movie review journey, please like and subscribe, and I will see y'all very soon.